Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Hope you are all doing well and staying safe. I am Mariam Shref, a senior petroleum engineering student at the Lebanese American University, and I'll be your moderator for today's first session for our online course, Introduction to Well Intervention. So, as I said, our session today is about Introduction to Well Intervention, presented by a masterful, skillful speaker with an extensive experience in the oil and gas industry. I am sure his participation and deliberation will benefit all participants today. So let me begin by introducing our guest speaker for today, Engineer Ahmed Elzeftawi. Engineer Elzeftawi holds a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering from Cairo University since 1983. He has about 34 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, whereby he worked in more than 17 countries. So mainly his work experience comprises the areas of coil tubing, completion, wireline, and well intervention, covering the following as an operator, supervisor, consultant, instructor, and finally a manager. So please help me welcome Engineer Elzeftawi. We are happy to have you here with us today. And on a final note, if you have any question related to the presentation, feel free to drop it down in the Q&A section. So we will try to answer as much questions as possible. Now, for the unanswered questions, we will sure take note of them and try to address them in future Q&A sessions. Without any further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this session, and Engineer Elzeftawi, the mic is yours.
Thanks, Mariam, for the very good introduction. Hello, everyone. Hope you will enjoy this 45 minutes webinar. Actually, this is my second experience with what you call webinar. I still cannot swallow it because my last 25 years in teaching was being inside the classroom with the people themselves, with the candidates, so we can fight. I like fighting a lot because fight during the session, it gives the flavor of the session actually. Rather than talking to myself for 45 minutes, I talk to people, not to the laptop. And it's very important because there is always a gap between what I say and what are you convinced with, what you believe in. And this fight together will make this gap very close, and we could eliminate it. And during my session, always when we fight, and I cannot win and you cannot win, then we go to the court. Our court in oil field is the API, American Petroleum Institute. What it says, this is the truth. Anyhow, I have to continue talking to the laptop for 45 minutes, and we are here today to talk about well intervention. Well intervention is a big subject. The actual course, actually, it takes 5 days, 8 hours per day. But this is a simplified well intervention, and we're going to do it in 7 or 8 sessions. Each one will last for about 45 minutes. And the actual course, actually, it goes through these topics you see it. Well control, risk assessment, hydrates, simple calculations about pressure and volume. These 3 topics represent the first chapter, which we call it completion operation. Then we talk about well completion. And then we talk about the well intervention technique or service. We have 3 services actually, coiled tubing, wireline, and snubbing. But in these 7 webinars, we will not talk about snubbing, but we will talk about coiled tubing and wireline. But let's go through what we're gonna discuss today together. This is today's topics. We will talk about well control. We will talk about the barrier. We will go through information damage. Formation damage actually by itself, it's a 5-day course, but we will talk about it in 5 to 10 minutes. Because the idea of the well intervention is not to go in details in every little topic, but to have a general idea. So when you guys, you go to the field, you know what's around you, and you behave correctly. And when a problem arises, you know exactly how to deal with it. This is the main issue. We will talk about a phenomenon called hydrates, and then we'll talk about some well killing methods. This will be our 45 minutes today. And let's start with first thing, well control. How we control the well. How we control any operation we do, not necessarily in oil field either. How you control, I always give an example of if you have a problem in your car and you need to fix it, there is a procedure you have to follow. First of all, you have to go to a good mechanic, and the mechanic should have the right tools. Number 3, the mechanic should know the way to fix your problem. The same thing applies to a plumber. If you have any problem at your home, you need a plumber, you have to go to a good plumber. The plumber has the right tools to fix your problem, and he has to know the procedures he follows to fix his problem. So it is the same technique we have in oil field. To have a good well control, these 3 things applies. Human, equipment, plans and procedures. And many people tells me that, come on Ahmed, you are an old guy. Maybe in the past, human comes number 1, but then equipment. Nowadays, the story is different. Equipment should come number 1. Because in the past, if you have a factory that produces 500 pieces a day, it needs 100 labor. Nowadays, the same factory, it produces 15,000 pieces a day with maybe 5 laborers. Equipment replaces human. Equipment does not do mistakes, while human does. Human doesn't obey orders, while equipment does. Do you believe in this? Come on, no. Who invented equipment? It's me and you. Human comes number 1 all the time. That's why we have to take care of the people we hire, the people we send to the field. Very important. How we select people? If you go to the HR science, how to select people, you receive CVs, you screen it, and then you make an interview. When you make the interview, I have been making interviews for the past maybe 30 years in my life. I never interviewed the guys in his technicality, actually. There are so many things that are more important, actually. Let's start with fitness. He has to be fit for the job. Fitness will mean physically and mentally. If you go to the science of interview, sometimes you ask a question with a very little voice, so you can examine if he can hear well or not. Sometimes you ask a question that makes you nervous to see your behavior while you are nervous. If you grab the chair you are sitting on and hit me on the head, this will be the same, your behavior in the field. When you get angry with your colleagues, you will grab a pipe wrench, 36 pipe wrench, and hit him in the head. We don't need this kind of people, definitely. Mentally, I face these people that maybe he is 40 years age, but he's a kid. We don't need to send kids to the oil field. We need to send growing men, growing people, men or women. Ask. Ask stands for attitude, skills, and knowledge. We need people with a good attitude. And many people believe that attitude represents the majority of the quality of people we are looking for. And they have these slides which tells you that if the English alphabetic A, B, C, D, and then we put A as 1, B as 2, C as C, and so on. Let's go for the word attitude. A, 1. T is 20. Then another T, another 20. If you count this, if you add this to that, it will give you 100%. It might be a coincidence, yes, but it represents a fact. The attitude is very important. And by the way, no one today can teach you the attitude. It is in your blood since you're born. We can play with it a little bit. We can make it better, but it has to be there initially. Skills. We need people with the skills. I believe there are two kinds of people. People like sponge, people like rock. If you bring a sponge and put it on a bucket of water, the sponge will absorb this water immediately, if it is a good sponge. But if you have a rock and put it in this glass of water, or bottle of water, pass after a week, it's a rock. So when we select people, we need people sponge type. People that we send to the oil field, they gain experience quickly. They gain information quickly. Not like rock, you send them to the field and after 6 months they came back, they know nothing. All they learned is the number of movies you watch in the recreation room. We need people with the skills. We need people that has knowledge. Knowledge, you don't gain it actually with experience. Because in the past, when I was a young operator and supervisor, my manager used to tell me, Ahmed, you need experience, you need knowledge. Go to the field. You gain it there. I went to the field and I gained it. But the knowledge I gained was correct or wrong. This is the big question. Because many of the knowledge I gained in the field was totally wrong. Knowledge, you get it from reputable places. I got the knowledge when I went to the field that if I have two hydraulic hoses, I need to connect them together with these quick connections. If the quick connection is dirty, I clean it with diesel to make it shiny, clean, and then I connect the two hoses together. This is the information I gain. This is the knowledge I gain. But this knowledge is rubbish because cleaning this quick connection with this type of diesel makes the rubber dry, the rubber that makes the seal between the male and female when I connect the two connections together. It makes the rubber dry so the rubber will not seal. Also, when I clean it with diesel, time after time, keep connecting. What's inside the hydraulic hose or the hydraulic circuit is not hydraulic oil anymore. It's a mixture. It's a mixture between water, hydraulic oil, and diesel. So the performance of your unit is totally bad. So please try to gain knowledge from reputable places like courses you go through or books you read, or college, but not through experience. Team efforts. When I make an interview to a gentleman or a lady, actually I never make any. It's very rare to make for a lady because in this part of the world, in Arab countries, yeah, female is not a common figure you see in the oil field. So when I make an interview to someone, I have to be sure that he can work in a team. No one can work alone. Who is the best player in the world now? Football player in the world? Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Modric. Great. Grab any one of them and put him in one of the national team in one of our countries. You will never hear about Modric or Cristiano Ronaldo again, because Messi is not Messi because of himself only, but because of the surroundings, because of the team he works for. No one, there is no Superman on the earth. Superman or Rambo does exist on Hollywood movies, yes, but not in reality. You need a team to work with, and you have to be able to distribute the work between the team and make the puzzle at the end. Democratic approach. I do believe that dictatorism exists. You have to follow it. I cannot make a meeting in the morning at home with my family members, my wife and my kids, to vote. Should we smoke marijuana at home or not? And if the majority, kids and my wife, agreed that we can smoke marijuana at home, then khalas, this is the democracy. I have to follow them. No, dictatorism exists. And in oil field, dictatorism exists. When you have a meeting in the morning, a safety meeting, you cannot vote, should we go to the oil field wearing helmet or not? You have to be a dictator. We are going to wear a helmet while going to the field. If you don't like it, go home. But when you talk about operations, you have to be a democratic. And a very good example of that is presented in the kickoff meeting or toolbox talk, pre-job meeting that we make before we go do the job in the oil field. Where do we make this meeting? We do it on location, on the Christmas tree itself. And there is a big reason why we do this meeting on the Christmas tree. Not on top of the Christmas tree, I mean, around the Christmas tree. Why? Because the client, whoever is the client, he makes the program as per his point of view. We as a service company, we might have a different point of view. So when we go to the field, we go to the location, we make the meeting, we found that there is unsafe act or unsafe condition in the Christmas tree or around the Christmas tree, preventing us from doing the job. So we have to highlight it. We cannot highlight it unless we see it by our eyes. Very important to do it on location. Who attend this safety meeting? It's everyone. Everyone means everyone. When we do it, just before the job. Then the last question, what we discuss in this meeting? What we discuss in this meeting? First, we discuss safety issues. We discuss the situation, the location. This is our fire extinguishers, the distribution of the fire extinguishers. Please watch the one soak, and this is our assembly point. We talk about risk assessment. What we expect during the jobs. Maybe we expect some problems. So if this problem happens, this is what we're going to do. This is the solution. If this happened, this is what we'll do. If this happened, so when the problem arises, we know the solution. We have the prevention already. We discuss the operation in a very simple way, so everyone understands it. This is very important because the program comes in English. Some of my team doesn't know English. Some of them know English, but they didn't read, or they read but they don't understand. So I have to be sure that they understand clearly what we are going to do. What we discuss also in this meeting, the responsibilities. Who is doing what? Who will think? Who will dance? Who will watch? I mean, we have to discuss who is doing what. Who is going to talk to the company man? Who is going to give signals to the crane operator? Who is going to deal with the Christmas tree? Who is going to work on the pump? Who is going to run the coil tubing inside the well? We have to nominate names. Very important, because if responsibility shared, then this will be a disaster. Please remember this very clearly. You cannot share responsibilities. You have responsibilities is assigned to one, not to two or three, not to a group, not to a crew. So when I need to kill someone, I can identify. But if responsibility is shared between 40, I cannot kill 40 actually. So you discuss all this in the pre-job safety meeting or kick-off meeting, toolbox talk, all the same. But before you leave, you have to ask your people to see their feeling about the rubbish you said. So, and the way you ask them, like the expression we use, we can say, listen to the feedback, but we use a better word. Encourage the feedback. Encourage means, okay guys, any question? And you go by your eyes, through their eyes. And if you see someone who would like to say something, but you feel that he's shy to say it, encourage him to say it. And if what he said is better for the operations, you have to change your program to what he said. This is what we mean by democratic approach. Communications and coordinations. Okay, I'm in Cairo now, making an interview to Dr. Ahmed Al-Garhi, because I'm looking for a coil-tubing supervisor. And during the conversation, I start talking with him in English, but he does not respond. And I found that the only language Dr. Ahmed Al-Garhi knows is Hungarian language. With all my respect to Dr. Ahmed Al-Garhi, I cannot hire him. He will not be able to communicate with my team. You have to have a common language that everyone understands. Responsibility. We need people that they can take responsibilities. Some people doesn't like it. One day I was working as a consultant for an investor in Egypt to create a stimulation company. So in a certain stage, we need to hire a GM, general manager for this company. So I heard about a gentleman who worked in Abu Dhabi as operation manager, and he is an excellent guy. So I took the plane and met him over there. We have a little discussion, and then I told him, okay, I need you in Egypt as a GM for the company. He refused. He said, Ahmed, I can go join your company as operation manager, not as a GM. Why? I respect him, by the way, and I hire him as an operation manager. But the moral of the story is, in your career, when you climb up, your technicality is less, your decision making is higher. So, and your responsibility is higher. So being a GM, you have the full responsibility. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. Some people, they are scared. They escape from this. We need people to take responsibilities. If you still remember, we were talking about the three ways to keep good well control. We said number one is human, number two equipment, number three is plans and procedures. We talk about human quickly because of the time limit, and then when we talk about the equipment, I will not go through all these topics, but I need you to know that the equipment has to be in a good shape. You, while going to the field, you have to know what do you have. And the equipment has to be inspected, not by you or by your friend or by a colleague, but your equipment has to be inspected by a certified inspection company. What we inspect equipment against pressure test, against we inspect all 50 equipment. I'm talking about slings, about shackles, escape sets, breathing apparatus, slings, fire extinguishers. All these has to be inspected to be sure it is working correctly. I remember one day in the past days, a service company sent the equipment to the location and ready to do the job. And before they do the job, the company representative went to the location to inspect the equipment before they start rigging up and do the job. So the company man went through the equipment, and at the end he went to the supervisor and told him, thank you very much. Please take your equipment and go home. And the guy was surprised because he didn't do any mistake yet. He didn't even start the job. So what's the problem? The problem, we found it in the report that the company man sent to his manager. He wrote that while checking the equipment on ground, he found that, I don't remember how many fire extinguishers in location, but let us say 8 fire extinguishers. He said that there are 8 fire extinguishers on location, but none of them is working, although all are certified. Certified means they have been inspected and they stick the stickers on the fire extinguisher that it has been inspected, and next due is after 6 months. But when he physically checked it, one is empty, one has a broken gauge, one has no handle, one has no hose. So what is the use of a fire extinguisher if it's empty? Certified, but empty. Certified, but has no gauge, or has no handle, or has no hose. So that's why you have to inspect it visually also. Quickly, I would like to go for the relation between the working pressure and the pressure tests. Let us assume now that we have a blowout preventer, what we call BOB, blowout preventer, that this is one of our barriers. And this blowout preventer, or this piece of pressure control equipment, is rated for 5,000 psi. Its working pressure, 5,000 psi. This equipment, when it is new, it is certified for 1 year. Then after 1 year, you have to recertify it. So you bring a certified company to witness the pressure test you will make for. Let us now make the pressure test for this pressure control equipment. And if you remember, it is rated for 5,000 psi, means its working pressure 5,000 psi. When we test it for how many? For the purpose of the inspection, we test it for how many psi? I don't hear you. Some of you guys will say, okay, we'll test it for 5,000. Some might say for less than 5,000. Actually, when we have this question, let's go to the API. Our court, what will say? Our court will tell us that the relation between the working pressure and test pressure for the purpose of certification is minimum 1.5. So this pressure control equipment, which is rated for 5,000 psi, when you test it to 7,500 psi, at least. If the test is okay, this company, the certification, will issue a certification, give it to you. When you go through this certification, you will never see 7,500. The certificate will tell you that this equipment has been tested to, has been certified for 5,000 psi. It might say at the end, a small note kida, test has been carried out as per the API, which means that he tested for 7,500. But when you take this pressure control equipment, you go to the field, rig up on a Christmas tree, what's the maximum pressure test you can apply for? You cannot raise the pressure more than 5,000. The maximum tested pressure is the maximum working pressure. Come on, Ahmed, but yesterday we tested to 7,500. This test you made, you do it only for the purpose of recertification. But when you work on daily activities, you never exceed the working pressure, which is 5,000. You have to be sure that the machine fits the work. If you need to make a pressure test, integrity test for the Christmas tree to 10,000 psi, and I'm sending you a pump which is rated for 5,000, then the machine does not suit the job. Plans and procedures. You have to have a plan. That's why we have a program. When we do a job, we know exactly the steps, the 20 steps or the 30 steps we are going to do. And we have to have a backup plan. What if the original plan didn't work? What are we going to do? You always should have a backup plan. We're going to pressure test and run hole till we reach 12,000 feet. Then we're going to mix acid and then inject it, pump it to the well. What if you mix this acid and you run in the hole and at 7,000 feet you cannot go through? What are you going to do with this acid you mix already? Are you going to drink it? Throw it to the sea? You have to have a backup plan. And these procedures you make is not, it's not a Bible or Quran that you have to implement it in every well. Every well has his own characteristics, and every well has to have its own job procedures. I'm going quickly because time limitation. Now we come to the barrier, which is the core of our today's topics. What's the barrier? What kind of well service disaster could happen caused by pressure? And by the way, the well intervention is about this word, pressure, P-R-E-S-S-U-R-E. This is, if there is no pressure, then we have no problems. We can live safe. but pressure is behind every problem that happens in the oil field. What pressure can cause? Can cause a blowout. What causes a blowout? The barrier you select didn't do his job, failed to do his job. What is the what's the equipment used to control a well from blowout? Barrier, of course. What's the barrier? What's the definition of a barrier? Any device, fluid, or substance that prevent the flow of the well or fluid. Please highlight on prevent. Prevent the well. Like what in oil field? What are the barriers we're using? One of them is the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is the group of valves that we put on top of the wellhead to control the well, to prevent the flow if we need. As you see here, this is a group of valves. Swap valve, lower master valve, upper master valve, wing valve, flow valve. All these valves are there to control the well, to prevent the blowout, to prevent the escape of oil bore to the surface. What else? Slick line stuffing box. Slick line stuffing box, it prevents. How it prevents? This is a slick line. We use this as a service to run in the hole, to run tools downhole to do a certain jobs. Why running in the hole and pull out of the hole? Who prevents the wellbore fluids escape to the surface? It is the stuffing box. And what you see here, this is the slick line. And what you see here is rubber, packing. Packing. This packing, while you run in the hole or pull out of the hole, this packing is squeezed on this wire, preventing a well fluid escape to the surface. And I wonder if you can see the difference in colors and shape of this packing or not. If you notice that, because each one is specifically made for a certain environment. The packing we are using for H2S environment is totally different than the one we use for standard service. Plus, the one we use for low temperature is different for the one that we use for high temperature. The one we use for low pressure is different for the one that we use for high pressure. That's why the selection of the packing, is part of the well control. Many people actually, they don't know that. They just grab any packing and put it. And then disaster happens. Because if you are working in H2S environment and the packing you are using is not for H2S, the H2S will eat it in no time. And then disasters happen. Then your barrier failed. Conventional stripper, it's a barrier. This is in coil tubing. This is a piece of coil tubing. And while we are running in the hole, what prevents the escape of wellbore fluid from the annulus here? It is the packing we are using. Here it is. What happened now? This packing is to seal on 1 1/4 inch. But initially, when I grab the pipe, I grab 1 1/2, so it doesn't fit. It doesn't go through. That's why I had to return it back and bring 1 1/4 inch. Now, it seals. I can run in the hole, pull out of the hole, and this rubber will prevent the escape of wellbore fluid to the surface. What else we use as a barrier in oil field industry? The BOP. BOP stands for blowout preventer. So while we run in the hole, as you see now, this is the pipe inside the blowout preventer. We are going now to the inside the well, and we have these different trams, our actuators, pipes, slips, shear ram, and blind ram. When we have the last one, which is the pipe ram, this is the pipe ram insert we call. And you see this groove, this is to match the size of the pipe. So if the pipe is 1 1/4, so this groove is to match 1 1/4. So when we close through the ram, what's inside the BOP here. We'll go through this when we go to the maybe session number 5 or 6. This is the ram itself, and this is the ram insert. So we go through it here. So this is one piece, and we have another piece on the other side. When we close, it goes like that. Because it's too heavy, I'll put it down. And then it will go and seal around this pipe. So this will prevent the well pressure escaping to the surface. And if we don't have pipe in the well, then we have number 1 here, which is the blind ram. This blind ram, it is blind. It has no profile. Because when you close, it seals on itself. This preventing the well pressure escaping to the surface. So a BOD is a barrier. Shear seal BOB is a barrier. Shear seal, we call it safety head. And this is normally the first thing we put on top of the Christmas tree. And from its name, it's shear and seal. This is how it looks like. When you close, if there is a pipe, it will cut the pipe and then continue movement, and it seals on itself, preventing at the end the well pressure escaping to the surface. So shear seal is a barrier. Yes. Wireline plug. Wireline plug we use to run it with the slick line. It goes through and sit on a particular landing nipple to prevent the escape of wellbore, and what prevent actually the rubber. You see it here. So wireline plug is a barrier. What is this? It is surface control, what to call it? It is surface control subsurface safety valve. Downhole safety valve, we commonly use to say it. The downhole safety valve, you see it here. This, when you run it in the hole, it prevents, because it has a mechanical device that closes in case of emergency. This is the landing nipple of the downhole safety valve, and this is how it looks like when you run it and sit it inside the nipple. It seals and preventing, but we call this emergency barrier. What's the difference between the barrier and the emergency barrier? Goodness. It's like when I come here today, I have $300 in my pocket. I have $200 in my wallet. If you ask me how many dollars you have, Ahmed, my answer is 300. come on, Ahmed, you have another 200 in your pocket, in your wallet. Yes, but I don't deal with it. I live my life with the 300 in my pocket. When I will consider the 200 in my wallet, when you put the knife on my neck, I will give you the wallet, trousers, the shoes, my watch, everything. So this is emergency, but I live my life with the 300. That's why when we go to the oil field, work on a life well, let's say we need 3 barriers. When you count the 3 barriers, you don't count the downhole safety valve. You said, okay, the 3 barriers I have is the Christmas tree, the stuffing box, the BOB, yes. But don't count the downhole safety valve because it's not a barrier. It's an emergency barrier. You have to have it, but don't count it. Barrier classification. We classify a barrier into 3 categories: primary barrier, secondary barrier, tertiary barrier. Normally, when we start the job, we start with the primary barrier. This is the primary barrier. We are running with the slick line. What prevents, while running in the hole, what prevents the wellbore fluid escaping to the surface? It is the stuffing box packing. So this is the primary barrier. If it failed, then we have to use the secondary barrier. Failed means what? Leaking? Leaking does not mean fail. Because if this is leaking, because there is a friction, of course, between the metal and the rubber. So it eats, the metal eats the rubber. So if this happens, there will be a gap, allowing the escape of oil or pressure to the surface. If this happens, all what we do, we increase the pressure to the packing so it seals again. But if you keep increasing to the maximum and it doesn't hold, now it failed. Now it failed. If it failed, then we go to the secondary barrier. But before we go to the secondary barrier, first thing you have to do is stop running in the hole or pulling, stop operation. Because the only barrier can work while running hole or pull out of the hole is the primary barrier. All other barriers you need to apply. First thing you have to stop, because all other barriers, they work in a static condition, not in working condition. What's our secondary barrier? It is the BOB, blowout preventer. So you apply a blowout preventer. And when you apply blowout preventer, the blowout preventer you apply it hydraulically, then mechanically. If we go back to the BOB, you will see here he has wheels. You see these wheels? After you close hydraulically, you go to the BOB and close it manually. The reason for closing manually, preventing the ram, if there is a leak in hydraulic oil, from going back. If it goes back 1/10 of millimeter, blowout will happen. But remember, never go to the Christmas tree or Christmas tree area to close these wheels if the well is not safe, if the condition is not safe. If there is a gas leak, never go there. Do not close it by hand. So if primary barrier fail, we go to secondary barrier. If the secondary barrier fail, we go to a tertiary barrier, which is, could be Christmas tree, could be a shear steel BOB, based on the configuration you have in your rigger. But this is the sequence. You go primary, if it failed, you go to secondary, if it failed, you go to a tertiary. I don't believe that 45 minutes already approached. What's the API recommendation of a barrier? The API said a minimum of 2 tested and available barrier, regardless of the types of operation, and regardless what you are doing You are drilling, you are doing coil tubing, oil line, production phase, minimum 2 barrier. Regardless of pressure, even if the pressure is 0, minimum of 2 barrier you need. We have to skip some because time limitation we have. We talk about the barrier classification, and we said we classify the barrier into 3 categories: primary, secondary, tertiary. But what about the barrier types? We say we have 2 types of barrier. We have mechanical barrier and we have hydrostatic barrier. The mechanical barrier, even we have 2 types. We have closed type and closable type. Closed type is like stuff in box, like this one, because this one, when it is closed throughout the operation. But the closable type is like the BOB. If you remember, this is the BOB ram. During the operation, by default, this is open. When you close it, when you need it, if the primary barrier fails, then you need it to close around the pipe to seal and prevent the escape of wind. Hydrostatic barrier, it's a liquid. Remember, it's not a fluid, it's a liquid. There is a big difference between liquid and fluid. Fluid is the holding company, where below it is either liquid or gas. You cannot use the gas as a barrier. It doesn't create a head, hydrostatic head. So a hydrostatic barrier is a liquid that creates hydrostatic pressure greater than the formation pressure. I cannot stop because this statement is wrong. Otherwise, formation pressure is 3,000, you will create hydrostatic head 6,000. It is greater than the formation pressure, but this will kill your well dramatically and damage your formation. But then we said within 200 to 300 psi, and it has to be monitored all the time. The hydrostatic barrier, the moment you lost monitoring, it's not considered as a barrier. You have to monitor it all the time. I'll skip this as well. Any barrier, when we test it, we have to test it from the direction of flow. Direction of flow. You cannot test this BOB, blind ram, by closing it and test it from above. Why? Because what's the reason of having it? You need, when you close it, to prevent the escape of pressure from where? Direction of flow. And actually, it is not designed to withstand pressure from above. Not designed for that. You design, you have to use the equipment for what is designed for. I always say that we design a ladder so you can put it on the wall, go up to change the bulb on the ceiling and come back. But then you can tell me, Ahmed, okay, Ahmed, I can use the ladder as a bridge between 2 tables. And to prove that, you put it across the 2 tables and you walk on top and you reach the other table. You see? Yes, you can do that. But believe me, one day, while doing that, at the middle, the ladder will fall down. Because when we designed the ladder, we didn't take into our consideration the stress analysis, that the ladder will be subject to this kind of force. So please, use the equipment for the purpose of what is designed for. You cannot use a valve, a butterfly valve, which is at the bottom of a tank, frac tank, full of water. So you open it partially, so you can wash your hands and close it again. You believe nothing will happen, but believe me, something happened. You didn't see it and you cannot monitor it initially. Because if you keep doing that, every time you open this valve partially, the water while going out, it erodes the sealing surface. So time after time, it will happen that you will close this valve, it will not seal. You destroyed it. It's an accumulation. So please remember that you test it from the direction of flow. Why I'm escaping these slides? Because I couldn't manage my time and the 45 minutes passed already. So I am poor in that. Formation damage. What damage information? I didn't hear you. Formation can be damaged. There are so many reasons can damage information. But actually, the two main reasons is pressure and fluid. When I say pressure, I mean exceeding the formation fracture pressure. If the formation fracture pressure is 3,000 psi, if you pump with a pressure 4,000, you will break a formation. Formation is not a glass to break it, but breaking formation, we mean that the formation downhole, it's grains, right? And these grains are in contact. There is gaps between these grains. You cannot see these gaps by your naked eye. You need a microscope to see these gaps. And there are links between these grains. So now, these grains, the distribution of these grains is stable at certain pressure. Let us say 3,000. If you exceed, what you will do, you're going to break these unseen links between these grains, and you will start to be apart from each other, regardless horizontally or vertically. At the end, it will be apart from each other. The moment you stop pumping, what will happen? The formation will fall down, will collapse. Removing these minor gaps you see by microscope, preventing the flow of oil going through the wellbore all the way to the surface. You damage the formation by exceeding. But actually, sometimes we do these jobs. We do what we call frag job. Frag job is a fracture job. Actually, you intend to frag information. So you have the formation pressure 3,000 psi, you pump with 7,000 or 8,000 psi. So you intend to break information, but you do it with knowledge. Before you stop pumping, you fill these gaps you created. You fill it with artificial formation to fill this gap. Now, when you stop pumping, the original formation cannot go back because already you filled this space with propellant, which is artificial formation. The advantage of the propellant you do is it has high permeability. So the well, if instead of the well producing 1,000 barrels a day, it will produce 2,000 or 3,000 barrels a day. So you do this intentionally, but you know what you are doing. So exceeding the formation fraction pressure will create formation damage. Number two is the fluid. When we talk about fluid, we mean pressure, which is already mentioned in number one, and compatibility and cleanness. Compatibility, the fluid you are pumping into the well has to be compatible with the formation. This is the glass. This is glass. I can fill it. I can put acid, no problem. But if this is steel, I cannot fill it with acid because acid will eat the steel. Acid will eat the steel. So any fluid we pump, it has to be compatible with the formation. So when it reaches the formation, it makes this chemical reaction. The end result will be product that does not hurt the formation. That's why when you do an acid job, it is not necessarily that we go for HCl acid. No, HCl is not compatible for sandstone formation, for example. You cannot. So we have to do what we call mud acid, which is a combination of HCl and HF acid in certain percentage. It's not just that. We do additives like corrosion inhibitor and surfactant, anti-sludge. It's a big story. It's a science. We don't pump just anything. The fluid we use to pump has to be clean. Clean means it doesn't have any rubbish, any scales, any debris. Otherwise, it will go through these channels in the formation, block it. That's why when you do injection wells, we always have a pump. We always have a filtration unit either by the pump station or nearby the well itself. Well killing. There are so many ways to kill the well, but before we go through well killing, let us go through why we kill a well. Why we kill a well? I need an answer from you guys. You have to think why we need to kill a well. And you might have a specific answer, but the general answer is if you have a problem and you need to stop this monster, which is the pressure coming through, you kill a well. But keep in mind that killing the well is not that easy to do and to decide that any problem that happens, the solution is killing the well. Actually, killing the well is the last solution you use to solve your problem. If you read the book, How to Solve Your Problem, and then you go, your problem is in page number 18. Then you go to page number 13, you see your problem, and then it tells you, okay, the answer is page number 19. You go to page number 19, how to solve your problem, you will see 1, 2, 3, up to 10. Number 10 is killing the well. It's not number 1. The first solution is not killing. Killing is your last solution because it costs you a lot. Not in killing, actually. But after that, when you need to reinstate production from the well. So keep in mind that killing is your last solution. I always say that if I have a problem with my kid, first I try to talk to him. Then I maybe tell him, okay, no weekends for 2 weeks. Or maybe I shout, maybe, okay, no, I will not give you money for a month. But definitely, my first solution is not to grab a knife and kill him. This will be the last solution, huh? So, normally we kill a well because we have a kick. What is the kick? The kick is intrusion of unwanted fluid into the system. Intrusion of unwanted fluid into the system. Your system is your well bore. In drilling, while you're drilling, you pass by a gas pocket formation. So this gas enter your mud. It reduces its hydrostatic head. To a limit, maybe you have hydrostatic head, less than information pressure, then you have a blowout. So when you have a kick, you decided to kill the well as a last solution, not as a first solution, because there are a couple of things you have to do before that. Many ways of killing the well. I will go quickly, very quickly, come on, in well killing, and we'll talk about 4 methods: bullhead, forward circulation, reverse circulation, lubricate, and deblete. Let's talk about the bullhead method. The bullhead method is by pumping kill fluid through tubing and squeeze the influx, which is the light gas normally, into the formation. We use this method in emergency because emergency when time is very critical, because this method does not need time. to kill the well. Normally, the well is dead between pumping a tubing volume and double a tubing volume. There is limitation on using this method, but as you see, we pump kill fluid into the tubing, and we squeeze this kill fluid into the formation. There is no circulation whatsoever here. It is a squeezing. The limitation we have to this method is the formation fracture pressure, that we cannot exceed the formation fracture pressure, otherwise we break it, as we discussed. El tubing burst pressure. This is a pipe. You are pumping through this pipe. So this pressure exerts on the walls. If you exceed the burst limit, this will become a ballooning and then it will burst. The internal pressure. So we care about the burst pressure. You should not exceed the burst limit. And this pipe, if it comes from the factory, telling you that the burst limit is 5,000 psi, do you believe it's 5,000 psi all over the period of its life? Come on. Of course not. The life of everything is doing like that. No life whatsoever is doing like that or coming up. It's going down. And you have to count. You have to calculate. Can you? Yes, but this is not the course we talk about it. But it is never 5,000 anymore because you have to degrade it every time. Due to erosion and wear and to tubing ballast pressure is the limit. The maximum pressure of the surface equipment, if you have a Christmas tree rated for 3,000 psi, this is the maximum pressure you can apply. You cannot exceed your pumping pressure than the rated Christmas tree pressure. Formation damage, which is one of the weak points of this method. Formation damage. How? Remember, we said that we are pumping now squeeze. If this well is not new, what will be downhole here? Do you know? Let me think. Oh, okay. There will be scales, paraffins, wax, spanners that you dropped while doing work, O-rings, ring gaskets. So you are pumping all this, you are squeezing all this into the formation, blocking this formation, damaging this formation. The only thing I need you guys to know about bullhead, that it is one of the kill methods. We use it for emergency because it doesn't need time actually. And the limitation, we have 4 limitations. Formation fracture pressure, tubing burst pressure, the maximum surface pressure of the equipment, and the formation damage. The second method is the forward circulation. We use the forward circulation by pumping the kill fluid in the tubing, as you see here, and taking the return from the SSD, sliding side door, which is open, through the annulus, then all the way out, while having wireline plug at the tailpipe here. Ahmed, but this is not a killing method, this is a circulation. So what? What is the aim of killing? Me and you, what's our target? Is to have 0 pressure in this pressure gauge. You see it on top. Regardless which way I go, at the end, if this is 0, then we reached our target. The way we put the wireline plug at the bottom here is to prevent prevent the killing fluid from reaching a formation that might damage it if it is not compatible to the formation. So this is the only reason we have this plug, as you see it. So by doing this, we are replacing a light fluid in the tubing with a heavier formation. It creates hydrostatic head pressure greater than the formation pressure. This method is not recommended because it has 3 advantages actually. One of them actually is having these at a certain stage when you pump, you will have this light fluid or gases that's in the tubing, you will have it in the annulus here. having in the annulus here is dangerous. Why? Normally we fill this annulus with fluid. The reason we have this fluid is to create hydrostatic hit. It helps the Parker, which is here, as you see, from being unset. How this Parker will be unset? From the pressure below it. The well pressure is always pushing, trying to push the Parker upward to unset it. What prevents the Parker from being unset? Number one, the ability of the Parker to withstand this pressure. That's why the Parker, when you buy a Parker from the supermarket, you buy either 2,000 psi or 3,000 psi or 4,000 psi based on the condition of your well. We don't buy Parker from the supermarket, I know. But number two, what prevented from being unset is if there is someone on top of it held the Parker from being unset, which is the hydrostatic head of this fluid. So by running this gas, moving this gas from the tubing into the annulus, this gas will reduce the hydrostatic pressure to a limit that you are gambling by unsetting the Parker. That's why we prefer the third method, which is the reverse circulation. Reverse circulation is the opposite. We pump kill fluid from the annulus, as you see. It goes through the SSD to the tubing, pushing the light fluid or the gas outside the well. This is the recommended, actually, because by doing this, we will not have any gases going from the tubing to the annulus. Am I going too fast? Yes, I'm doing that. The last method is the lubricate and bleed. The lubricate and the bleed is the method that we use to pump a small amount of kill fluid and deblete a small amount of gas while keeping constant bottom hole pressure constant. The way we do it is, if we have a kick, normally we go all the way down, and have a complete circulation with a clean mud. After we do that, we close the well. If these pressures, gauges still showing pressure, that means it's a continuous kick. Then we have to kill the well. By doing what? By pumping a small amount of kill fluid, like 1 barrel, and wait till this 1 barrel goes through the tubing, go all the way down to the bottom. That's why lubricate and bleed, because the name came from that, because this 1 barrel or 2 barrels you pump, it lubricates through the original fluid and goes all the way through. And then open the valve at the surface to bleed a small amount of gas and close. Then pump another barrel, wait till it goes all the way down, and then bleed off a small amount of gas. You do this till all the gas is out. I need to tell you that during the production of a well, what's the media inside the well? It is salad. Salad means it's cucumber, tomato, onion, oil, salt. It's a mixed ingredient. It's oil, gas, and water. This will be presented in every single point inside the well. But the moment you shut in the well, you change the condition from flowing condition to static condition. By doing that, this mixed grill, or this mixture of fluids, will separate based on the density. So water will be down, above it will be oil, above it will be gas. This does not happen in a moment. It takes time, because this bubble of gas, which is 1,000 feet away from the surface, while traveling, it will take maybe half an hour. But these bubbles of gas, which is 10,000 feet below, it will take maybe 2.5 hours to reach the surface. So this accumulation of gas to the surface, it creates what we call a gas cap. So when you shut in a well, the pressure will go quickly to maybe 900 psi. And then we go to a cafe, have a cup of tea, and then we came back after 1 hour. This 900 will not be 900. It might be 1200. And then you monitor, then you say 1210, 1220, then 1250 and stops. The time stops, the well is stabilized. These water, oil, gas separation is done already. 2 stages you will notice that when you shut in the well. First thing you notice that it is an increased pressure. This is due to information buildup. Then you will see an increased pressure over time. This is done by the gas migration. So the first stage of shutdown is the formation buildup, which makes the pressure goes rapidly high. But then the second stage, which is the gas migration, this goes slowly up during a period of time, not a short time. Last thing today is we talk about the hydrates. What's hydrates? It's a phenomenon of forming an ice all of a sudden while operation. What you see here, this picture shows you the hydrates formation. The hydrates is crystal, as you see, it's crystal. This crystalline water structure formed with a small molecule of gas. For these hydrates to happen, these 4 things has to happen at the same time and the same point. Presence of free water, presence of gas, relatively high pressure, relatively low temperature. And the word relatively I put here in red. Why? If I put high pressure, then it is in your mind 10,000 or 15,000 psi. But this is not correct. The hydrates might happen at 2,000 psi. Because 2,000 is relatively high to the circuit. If the circuit pressure is 1,000, then 2,000 is very high. Relatively. Same thing, if I put low temperature, maybe you think it is 0 or below, but hydrates will happen at 17 degrees centigrade. Because it is relatively low compared to the system. If the system temperature is 20, then 17 is relatively low. If these 4 conditions exist at the same time, at the same point, hydrates will form. And you might notice in the oil field formation of ice which is not hydrates at all. You will see it if you are pumping nitrogen. You will see this ice on the tubes, on the generation unit, nitrogen unit. This ice is not hydrates. This ice is due to the formation of ice from the liquid in the air itself. Because on the very freezing surfaces. You will notice that if you are doing a slickline job, you reach the surface, you close the swap valve, and then you have 3,000 psi inside your lubricator. You need to open this needle valve to bleed this 3,000 out so you can break down. If theoretically, if you bleed off this 3,000 psi, all of a sudden, you will see that the needle valve you open is iced. This ice is not hydrates. This is because of another engineering formula, engineering relation between pressure and temperature. This formula tells you that with each 1 bar drop of pressure, it will be followed by ½ degree centigrade. So if this 3,000 psi pressure in your lubricator, which is almost 200 bar, if you need to drop this 200 bar all of a sudden to 0, the temperature will be dropped 100 degrees centigrade. So this needle valve temperature, if it is 40, it will become -60. And what the ice you see it is because of the formation of this phenomena that happen in the air, the liquid in the air, the water in the air is freezed. This is very dangerous, by the way, because iron become brittle at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So this treating iron pipes, which is 15,000 psi pressure rating, if you decrease its temperature suddenly to minus 40, it will become like glass. You break it by your leg. If you say, it will break. That's why in oil field, we prefer the word slow. Slow in our ordinary life is bad. You drive slow, your behavior, your reaction is slow. So slow is bad generally. But in oil field, slow is the word that attracts you to the good answer. When you pressure test slowly and in stages. When you bleed down slowly and in stages. When you run in the hole, slowly. When you pull out of the hole, slowly. Slowly is the correct word. The only time I see it in API that they said quickly is the correct word is when you close the Christmas tree flowing valve. The flowing valve on the side of the Christmas tree, when you close it to shut in the well, you have to close it as quickly as possible to prevent the erosion of the sealing surface, because the gate of the valve goes this direction and the flow goes this direction. So you are eroding the sealing surface. So you close it as quickly as possible to prevent this erosion that happens. To prevent the hydrates from happening, look at this. These are 4 things that has to be there at the same time at the same location. If you remove one of them, hydrates will not form. Hydrates to form, you have to have these 4 subjects. If you remove one, hydrates will not form. So all what you need to do is to remove one. One of these you cannot remove. It is out of our hands. Which one? Can you tell me? You think a little bit. Which one of these 4 we cannot play with? Actually, number 2, in presence of the gas. Can you go to the Christmas tree and you talk to the reservoir, which is 15,000 feet below? Okay, Mr. Reservoir, would you please send me the oil? Keep the gas now, I will take it next week. Can you do that? You cannot. Because what brings the oil to the surface is the gas. If there is no gas, there is no oil. So gas you cannot play with. Gas exists. But the others we can play with, like presence of free water. That's why in location where we know that hydrates happen, we don't test our equipment with water. We test it with salt water, with brackish water, with seawater, with inhibited water, which is water inhibited with inhibitor. The 2 common inhibitors we use is glycol and methanol. Regardless which one is better in preventing or in removing, both have the ability to prevent and remove. I have been talking for 1 hour and 20, and this was designed for 45 minutes. I am done. Of course, there are a lot of things I need to talk about, but my time is limited, and I hate that you are sitting for 1.5 hours listening to someone who is talking. I know that this is not good. So I'm trying to make it 45 minutes, and I will do my best in the next sessions to make it only 45 minutes. Sorry for the delay and keep you 1 hour, 20 minutes listening to someone who talks. Mariam, I'm done. If you have...
So thank you, Engineer Elzeftawi, for this informative session, and I'll begin by the questions. So the first question is that at which depths of the well do we insert the subsurface safety valve?
It's a very good question. Normally, we call it's an earth crater. The downhole safety valve has to be below surface, not on surface. Why? We need to protect it from yourself damaging it. So let us decide to put it 10,000 feet below. You cannot. Why? Because this downhole city valve has a tube, stainless tube, quarter inch, all the way to the surface where you control open and close it. The downhole city valve, it's always under pressure to keep this flapper open. If you need to close it to shut the well in, you bleed off the pressure from the surface. So you close it. But if you put it 10,000 feet, there will be always a 10,000 feet of hydrostatic head above it, which is the fluid inside the tube. Then you will not be able to remove this hydrostatic head, then the valve will not close at all. So you cannot set it deep in the well. Then the other option is to put it shallow. Can we put it 5 feet below the surface? The answer is no. Because if you put it 5 feet below the surface, and then we are playing a football game, or there is a heavy trucking nearby the well, this heavy traffic will transmit vibration that might affect the valve and close it and open it by itself. Then we have to put it below the surface to a level that we prevent from the surface impact or any explosion that happen on the surface. Is it 150 feet or 200 or 200? It depends on the earth. If the soil is soft, then we have to put it deeper because vibration will transmit into this soft formation. If it is rocky type formation, then we can put it 100, 150 because vibration will not be transmitted through rocks. So it is within this range based on earth crater, as we said. Any more questions?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the second question is that what is the difference between killing a well and abandoning a well?
How you abandon the well without killing it? Abandon the well is the last procedure. You tell the well, bye-bye, see you later. Before you do this, you have to be sure the well is killed. So killing the well is one step to reach the last stage, which is abandon the well.
Okay, thank you. And another question is that could we consider the plug and forward circulation method as a barrier? And if yes, why we kill the well and what is the importance of the plug?
Hi, as I said, normally we use barrier. But if barrier failed, if all the barrier you have in location failed to prevent a well from blowing out, then your last action is killing the well. His example, while doing reverse circulation or forward circulation, the barrier actually, the primary barrier, normally we say that if a fluid is considered as a barrier, it is always a primary barrier. If a fluid is considered a barrier, it is always your primary barrier. But we have special cases, exceptions, like a forward circulation and reverse circulation. The plug actually, in this particular case, is your primary barrier. Your secondary barrier is the fluid above it, that you replace it with a fluid that creates hydrostatic head greater than the formation pressure. But this is a special case, that the barrier is not the fluid. The barrier will be the plug initially. And the secondary barrier will be the fluid. This is a special case. As I said, generally, we don't go to killing the well unless all the other procedures failed or we cannot implement it. Like we don't have barriers or all the barrier failed. In this particular case, we have to go for killing.
Yes, thank you. Also, someone is asking, how do we monitor the overbalance of a primary barrier?
Okay, let's go for drilling, for example. In drilling, they plan to drill the well while using mud 8.5. 8.5 means 8.5 ppg, pound per gallon. So while drilling, they always fill the hole with mud 8.5. The mud engineer who is in charge of that, he always monitor that this mud is 8.5. How you monitor it? From a sample point at the surface. He open this sample point, take this mud, and he measure it in his lab to be sure it creates density of 8.5. If it is less or more, then he has to play with his content of mud. But this is how to monitor, is by sampling from time to time.
Yes, thank you. And the final question for today is which one of the killing methods types is recommended for killing jobs and that will not damage the formation?
We talk about 4 methods, and there are other methods. So we have 10 methods to kill the well. Which one is best for you in your well? If I answer you, I am dummy. Why? Because you are the best one who select the best way to kill your well based on the condition you have. Our rule here is to tell you the benefits of each one and the disadvantage of each one. But which one you select, this is based on the situation you have in location. You are the best one to decide. That's why when we have questions that you answer, when a problem arises, who solves it? Is it you as a company man in location or your manager in the main office? It is you. The manager in the main office does not see the problem, does not feel the problem. But you in location is the one who decide. The manager in the office, this is just to approve what you take as a decision. But you are the only one to decide which way to go and which one to use.
Okay, so thank you, Engineer Elzeftawi, for this really fruitful and informative session. And hope you guys enjoyed this session. But please, on a final note, please don't forget to join the Google Classroom for the well intervention course. And the codes of the classroom are posted on the Arab Oil and Gas Academy Facebook page, and they are also sent by email. So please don't forget to join only one classroom per course and to solve the posted quizzes. Otherwise, you won't be able to get your certificate. And to add also, by the end of this course, also we have a final exam and the date will be posted on the Facebook page. And finally, once you join the Google Classroom, so kindly fill the personal information document, since if you didn't submit it, you will not be able to receive your certificate. So thank you again, Engineer Elzeftawi, for being with us here today, and hope you guys enjoyed this session and have a nice day.